Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and I don't know about y'all, if you bleed silver and black, you got some fantastic news today. If you don't know what that fantastic news is, that's why I'm here. I'm going to keep you guys up to date. Also, we're going to talk about some NFL coaching rumors. There's a certain domino that is going to fall in the NFL. I don't think it's going to happen this week, but I do think it's going to end up happening soon. I believe as soon as Monday. Also, interview request. The Silver and Black had two people that they interviewed today. One person that I think is very much in the running for the job. Another person that's very well liked, very well respected, got some interesting coaching trees, but it allows us to essentially hire our head coach. If you do not know, my name is Mitchell Renz. Y'all are watching the Raiders Report, and I want to apologize to everyone. I was trying to get out some content earlier today. Verizon, SOS, I've been still having some issues with my phone. I've been trying to call people. I've been trying to text people. I got absolutely, positively nothing until literally just a little while ago. So I know that I'm at home. My job here, though, is to always keep you guys up to date. And when I feel like I get fantastic news, I want to be able to share it with y'all. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure those notifications are turned on, because after a rough 2025, man, I'll tell you this right now, 2026 for Raider Nation is looking really, really flipping good. And if you want to be a part of the journey with the number one Raider show on the planet, make sure you're subscribed. All right, let's talk about the fantastic news that happened today. Oregon quarterback Dante Moore is heading back to Oregon to play another year. I want to give a lot of credit to our Oregon guy. His name's Will Ortner, and it's, again, like, I know that I do the Raiders Report show, but if you're a fan of another college team, NBA team, I mean, our guys here are up to date. He told me last week, he's like, wait for Dylan Raiola to declare to Oregon. It's not going to matter. He's going to be the backup quarterback. Dante Moore is going to be going back. And I'm like, all right, man, we'll see what ends up happening. And bang, bingo, bango. That guy was spot on. But the reason why that this really hypes me up for a Raider fan, it's not that I didn't like Dante Moore. I did like Moore, and I think a lot of Raiders fans did like him. But it was Fernando Mendoza was number one. Dante Moore was number two. Let's argue about who 3, 4, 5 was in this entire class. But the fact that he's going back to Oregon says Fernando Mendoza is number one. You can argue about who's 2. You can argue about who's 3. You can argue about who's 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't give a flying flip 8 and 9. Number one quarterback in the 2026 NFL draft is Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza. And if we want him, he's right there and he's ours. I am a Mendoza believer. I think that he's got the tools and the traits to truly be a special franchise quarterback. But the reason why that this is fantastic news, if you're a Raiders fan, is because there's 2 Raiders fans right now on the planet. Hopefully I'm not wrong in saying this. There's the I want to draft Fernando Mendoza crowd. And if you want to draft Mendoza, give me a Mendoza down below, because I'm rocking right there with you. And then there's the other crowd that's like, hey, I think Mendoza's a hell of a quarterback. But we have so many holes that need to be filled. We have to entertain the idea of trading back from number one to try to get even more picks. That way we can build a more complete team. If you're a Raiders fan, I think that that's the fence that you're on right now. And after the news that we got today that Dante Moore is going to be going back to college, that's a win-win for Raider Nation. Because if you want to take a quarterback number one overall, there's nobody else that you can take. It's Fernando Mendoza. And after everything that I've seen in the college football playoffs, I want a guy that plays his best ball in the biggest situations. You could tell me he doesn't have that type of athletic ability. You could tell me he's not as great as some of the other QBs. What he's got is he's a winner. Ice in his veins. He's an unbelievable, accurate quarterback. Phenomenal strength in that arm. I think his ability to process, look across defenses. But the biggest moments, the guy shows up. I don't want a Justin Herbert. I don't want a Trevor Lawrence, a guy that you look at and you're like, man, this guy's an incredible quarterback. But in the biggest situations, he can't get it done. Fernando Mendoza, I don't care if he's got bum legs, no arms. He wins football games. And the last time that I checked, that's what's the most important thing when you're a franchise guy, to make everybody else around you. But guess what? I'm hyped up today because I did think that this was going to happen. I know I mentioned it a few times on the show over the past week, again, because of our guy covering Oregon. But the fact that it actually happened today, I just feel so damn good, man. Being a Raiders fan is tough. Y'all know it. I don't got to explain it to anybody out there, right? But I just feel like this year feels different already. Like, we're 14 days into 2026. We're undefeated. We beat the Chiefs. We fired Pete Carroll. We got the number 1 overall pick. And somehow that number 1 overall pick just became more valuable because Dante Moore ended up going back. So I'm going to hit y'all with a question. And I'm really curious what the answers are to this question because, again, I think that there is Mendoza, take him number 1. And then there's the other Raider fans that are like, he's a hell of a quarterback, but if we get offered a boatload of picks, I think we got to take it. So here's going to be the pinned comment. Here's going to be the number 1 question that I want you to answer from today's video. If a team offered the Raiders 4 first-round picks, whether it's 1 or 2 this year, 1 or 2 next year, maybe even 1 or 2 if they got them in 2028. My point is 4 first-round picks for the number 1 overall pick. Would you take it? If you would take it, type T for take. If you're saying, nah, I'm keeping that mother effer, then give me a K for keep down below. I'm going to sit up here and I'm going to keep that mother effer. And I at times I find it hard to believe that I'm saying K for keep because so many years in the past that I've done this show, I've always been team trade back. I've always been, hey, man, let's get some more picks. Let's try to get some more talent. We have a lot of holes to be able to fill. But I am a believer that Fernando Mendoza can be that guy. And I think that he can truly, truly be that difference maker. If you are somebody that's typing your T for trade, I want you to check out a video that I'm going to drop tomorrow on the Raiders Report. It's around all these different trade ideas. Now, I did make this video earlier in the week, so this was not until the Dante Moore news came out. And I do think that I say in that video, well, we don't know if Dante Moore is going to be coming out or not. The trades that I made were in the back of my mind thinking that Dante Moore was going to go back to Oregon. And I want you to look at the trades that I'm going to put in that video because essentially it's like, all right, you want that number 1 overall pick? Well, here's the price tag. That price tag just went up here. And if you want that guy, you're going to have to pay this price tag. I compare it to toilet paper during COVID because there were times, I'm not afraid to admit it, there were times in my own house I thought about spending $50 for a roll of toilet paper. I'm not trying to say Mendoza's shit, not saying the number 1 overall pick's crap, but what I am saying is there's supply and demand, and there's a high demand for quarterbacks in the NFL, and there's a high demand for Fernando Mendoza. The stock is rising. Raider Nation got some fantastic news today. Let's go over some of the interview updates from Las Vegas that ended up going down today. The Raiders ended up interviewing 2 people. First name that I'm going to mention is Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter. Where there's smoke, there's fire, right? I think the Raiders, John Spytek and Tom Brady are 2 guys that I do think are very, very smart, and they got a plan in place. And when you look at the first, we'll call them round of interviews, it was Davis Webb, Vance Joseph, Matt Nagy, Kevin Stefanski, Klint Kubiak. So when you think about those list of interviews, I think it's Davis Webb's OC, Nagy and Vance Joseph, 2 of our rivals, Chiefs, Broncos. But then also Vance Joseph satisfies the Rooney Rule. On top of that, though, you got Kevin Stefanski, a fired head coach that maybe you want to pick his brain. But I think the number 1 guy you were looking at there is Klint Kubiak, and you interviewed him on Friday. Now let's look at today in the interviews that happened. You interviewed Jesse Minter, who has been the number 1 name that I have heard for the last, at this point, probably 2-ish months that John Spytek and Tom Brady got their eyes on. If you don't believe me, I put out a video in early December saying, hey, they're already looking at this guy before, all the Pete Carroll stuff started popping up. Again, when you're already talking about head coaches before you fire your own guy and you got it in December, you kind of know where that smoke's going to end up leading, which is, again, is why I think rumors are extremely important. But the other person that the Raiders interviewed today was Ejiro, Evero, the defensive coordinator of the Carolina Panthers. And I think that one personally is important because he is a very well-respected defensive-minded head coach. He's done wonders, I would say, with that Carolina defense. I don't really think that you can debate that. But that's somebody who also has got a lot of Sean McVay ties. He was with the Los Angeles Rams from 2017 to 2021. So, clearly the Raiders are interested in what McVay's doing because you interviewed Scheelhaase, Shula, and you're going to be interviewing, oh my God, Mike LaFleur. So, I mean, that's multiple coaches that are coming from like that Rams side. So the fact that they're looking around and they're sniffing at these dudes, I think that that's a really good sign. The other part of it is Evero satisfies the Rooney Rule. I do not think that Vance Joseph and Evero are going to be two coaches that the Raiders hire as their next head coach. However, though, if you are the Raiders and you're zeroing in on a certain person that you really want to be able to go out and get, now you can technically hire that person. And in the NFL, dominoes fall. And there's going to be a domino that ends up falling. Again, when you look at the rumors out there right now, it sounds like it's going to be Monday for this one particular head coach, and it's probably the top head coach out there, depending on who you talk to. But that person is John Harbaugh. And everything that I've been hearing, everything that's been out there right now on social media, it looks like John Harbaugh is going to be the next head coach of the New York Giants. And I originally thought maybe he could go down to Miami. The Giants, it was between the Dolphins and the Giants. Everything is pointing to the Giants. And Harbaugh does have an interview tomorrow, I believe, with the Tennessee Titans. Yes, tomorrow with the Tennessee Titans. From what it sounds like, that's really just, hey man, like I'll hear what you got to say. Let's talk it through. But it does really sound like John Harbaugh is going to be the next head coach of the New York Giants. The reason why that's really important is because that domino is going to fall. Once that domino falls, other dominoes are going to start to fall. And if you're the Raiders, you got to be ready. You got to make sure that if you want to be able to get that guy in your room and you can hire him, you can hire him. Now, obviously, with Minter and Evero, they did not get an offer to job today. I'm not really surprised by it. And I'm saying that I'm not surprised by it because the Raiders still want to interview, I know, one person. There's one more person that has not been said yet that I know for a flying fact that the Raiders will put in an interview request for him. And his team plays this weekend. If that team ends up losing, who knows? That could be somebody that the Raiders are going to go out there and they're going to try to get. So the two interviews today I think are important because Jesse Minter is one of the top guys that Spytek and Brady are looking for. Now that the Raiders have interviewed Vance Joseph and Evero, they can technically hire their head coach because they have satisfied that Rooney Rule. And with the domino of Harbaugh getting ready to fall, it could happen Friday. I'm just going to stick with, again, our chat sports guys, and it sounds like Monday is really the day that it's going to end up going down for Harbaugh because I also think that the NFL is a really well-run machine. What do I mean by that? If you hire Harbaugh on Friday, you take attention away from the NFL playoff games Saturday and Sunday. The NFL don't want that to happen. So what a lot of times happens, the NFL is like, all right, this might happen. Cool. Don't put that information out there yet. Wait. Playoff games happen. Monday rolls around. Bingo. That's the day that the Harbaugh news ends up dropping. So if you're the Raiders, you got to be ready to rock and roll. And you got to be ready for when that news drops that you can start then looking at your top guys because once the Harbaugh domino falls, other dominoes will begin to fall. So coming up here next on the program, I'm going to tell you the coach that the Raiders are going to be requesting to interview very, very soon. And this name's not out there yet. I've talked about this name before, but this will be an interview that the Raiders put in for maybe this week, definitely next week. I'll tell you who that is in just a moment. Before we get into that, though, today's show, sponsored, operated, however the hell you want to say it, brought to you by Prize Picks. And whether you're starting a new routine or you're making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be hard, but in life and on Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure playoff matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never stops and Prize Picks lets you take control. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't actually have a lineup for you guys today because I'm waiting. There's some certain injuries. I want to wait a little bit closer to Saturday and Sunday to put in my lineup because also they've been doing some really good deals on Prize Picks, and at the end of the day, I'm a man that loves a good deal. But on Prize Picks, how you play is up to you. And if you want flexibility, choose a flex play. You're not going to win as much money, but if you want to try to win some money, go with that power play. Now, you got to get all your picks right. There's a little bit, more difficulty in it, but to me, if you're really confident in your picks, hey, man, put your money where your mouth is. And you can get in on the action. Prize Picks is now available in all 50 states, and you can also do a stack. Like one of the stacks that I guarantee you that I'm going to do. It's a guarantee. I'm going to be live for Bills up against the Broncos. I'm going to do a Josh Allen stack. Why? Because I'm going to be rooting for Buffalo. I'm going to be rooting for Josh. I'm definitely going to be rooting for FDEN, F the Broncos, F Sam. So because I know I'm going to be doing that, I'm going to put together a Josh Allen stack. If you don't know what a stack is, it's you can pick the same player up to 3 times on Prize Picks. I want to wait to see what some of the health looks like for some of those wide receivers in Buffalo. But you can join me. You can join millions of people on Prize Picks. Download the app today. Make sure that you use code CLNS to be able to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to be able to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, let's keep it moving here. And I promised you the coach that the Raiders are going to be interviewing. And again, they have not requested to interview him yet, but this has been a name that I've heard, and this news will happen maybe this week, but definitely you're going to hear it next week. And that's Robert Saleh, the 49ers defensive coordinator. This has been somebody that's been on the Raiders' radar for multiple seasons because, well, we've hired multiple head coaches. I think the craziest stat that I saw over the past 48 hours was the Raiders have had 6 head coaches since 2021. The Pittsburgh Steelers have had 3 head coaches since 1969. So wild shit right there. But according to Ian Rappaport, 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh will interview with the Ravens and Titans on Sunday, source said. There are others, but those are the ones set. Because I have heard the name Robert Saleh from the sources that I talk to for as long as I have, I am going to guess that Ian Rappaport, with him saying there are others, but those are the ones that are set, one of those teams is going to be the Las Vegas Raiders. And I don't blame Saleh for, taking the Ravens and Titans. You also got to face the facts. The Titans have been doing this. I don't even remember when the hell they fired Callahan, but they fired Callahan, it was like week 8 or something like that. But if you are Saleh and you're a defensive-minded head coach, and I still believe that the Raiders' job is better than the Giants' job. I still think that the Raiders' job is the best job out there, really outside of Baltimore. Some people might argue Pittsburgh because they don't move on from people, and there's a lot of stability within that organization. But I also think Steelers fans are going to have to learn the hard way of just how much of a good job Mike Tomlin did, because in all honesty, when you look at that roster, I don't really think that that's all that great of a roster. You don't have a quarterback. Your defensive players are getting really, really old, and it's just the team that is falling apart at the end of the year, and sometimes that happens when you just got some of those older guys and not as much young talent on that team. I digress. But the Raiders have been doing a lot of due diligence on defensive-minded head coaches. If you're a defensive-minded head coach like a Robert Saleh, like a Brian Flores, like a Jesse Minter, I think that you're going to try to go get that Pittsburgh job, and I think you're going to go try to get that Baltimore job. And if you don't want the Raiders to hire a defensive head coach, I think that you should be pretty happy that the Steelers and Ravens job is open. Why do I say that? Because that's an organization that's going to go with the defensive-minded head coach. It's what they've done for so many years. And if I was a betting man, I would say between Robert Saleh, Jesse Minter, and Brian Flores, one of those 3 guys are going to be the next head coach of the Ravens and of the Pittsburgh Steelers, which means the Raiders could potentially get the other guy. I've heard the name Minter obviously a lot to Las Vegas. If I'm being honest with you, if I had to put money down on it right now, I would say Brian Flores is going to be the next head coach of Pittsburgh, and I would say Jesse Minter is going to be the next head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, which means Robert Saleh could be open for this job here in Las Vegas. And I think Saleh is a great candidate. Klint Kubiak is another name that I really, really want the Raiders to be able to go out and get. But Saleh is a name that you're going to hear. It might happen later in the week. It might happen. It's definitely going to happen next week. But I'm telling you this right now. Where there's smoke, there's fire. I've heard Saleh's name so many freaking times. And the fact that the Raiders have not put in an interview request for him yet. And with that report coming out from Rappaport about, 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how quick this video is that I make, I believe that the Raiders are going to get in an interview with Saleh. You're going to hear that information. Another name to watch out for is Brian Flores. And the reason why that I say that is because before the Raiders fired Pete Carroll, the 3 names that I heard from my sources were Jesse Minter, Robert Saleh, and Brian Flores. This is something I talked about, obviously, a bunch here on this show. And we haven't heard anything from Flores yet. All I'm going to say is this, and it's probably going to be a video that I end up doing, but if the Raiders end up not requesting to interview Flores, all I'm going to say is I think that there are certain players on that team that have a lot of respect from Mark Davis and have a lot of respect from Brady and John Spytek, that they're listening to certain guys and they're going, hey man, I don't want Brian Flores to be my head coach. Because for the people that I talked to that gave me the Flores name, and for Flores' name to be floated out the way that it was, and now it's just quickly not really hearing anything, it is also important to mention that today is the last day that Flores' contract, it runs out today for Minnesota. So he can technically, go with anybody else. Like yesterday, I believe Patrick Graham interviewed for the defensive coordinator job for the Miami Dolphins. He also interviewed for the defensive coordinator job for another team, and I hate the fact that I don't remember it, but I know PG is interviewed for 2 jobs. PG's contract is up. Brian Flores' contract is up. Now, the Raiders could be waiting for that contract to officially run up, and they could submit that request tomorrow, but I do find it interesting that we haven't gotten that interview request yet. It could also be that the Raiders know which guys they want. And if they're saving the best for last, I do wonder if they're saving Jesse Minter, Robert Saleh, Brian Flores. And that might not be the best in your eyes. It might not be the best in my eyes. But if those are the first 3 names that I heard, that could be one of the reasons why they are saving those guys for last. Now, one more name that I want to throw out there, and this has just been a name that I've said a bunch in terms of an OC that I want the Raiders to go out and look at. It's Mike McDaniel, and Mike McDaniel is somebody that I've really been pushing for an OC. And if you're the Raiders and you want to bring in a guy like Flores, you want to bring in a guy like Robert Saleh, damn it, let's give Mike McDaniel a check, man. He just completed an interview with the Buccaneers. He's going to be looking at some jobs. I know he completed an interview with the Detroit Lions, and you're going to see a lot of really smart teams go out there and try to interview Mike McDaniel because he is one of the smartest offensive-minded coaches. And, he helped make a really good Dolphins passing attack before Tua got injured. He did a hell of a job with Devon Achane, and I just think the Raiders could really benefit from a guy like Mike McDaniel. So if you're the silver and black and you're looking at Saleh, you're looking at Brian Flores, you're looking at some of these defensive-minded guys, I do think bringing in Mike McDaniel does make a lot of sense because he does have a lot of ties with Saleh. If for whatever reason, you don't go that route, it is what it is. I'm not going to get too upset about it because, again, there are a lot of really good coaches out there. There's a lot of, this hiring cycle is phenomenal. And there were some people out there that wanted the Raiders to keep Pete Carroll. I hope, after you've seen all the reports out there about how bad that coaching situation really, truly was from top to bottom, and I hope everybody, when they see how many great coaches are out there now, I understand the Raiders have hired and fired guys left and right, and that's not how you're going to build stability, but also at the same damn time, you got to go out and get the best guys for the job. And there's no way on planet Earth, if Pete Carroll was in this hiring cycle, he's not even in the top 20. You know what I mean? It's just a fact. He's just not even in the top 20. But what's really important for the Raiders is they need to find their guy. They need to find their guy that makes the most sense for the Las Vegas Raiders. And, I said it before. I don't think Tomlin and Harbaugh are the right guys, but they would probably agree that the Raiders aren't the right job for them either. Sometimes we just look at a name, and I think Mark Davis far too often just looks at a name and goes, oh, this guy's got this resume, this is this, I'm going to slap this, and that's going to work. It's not how it works in life. You got to find the right guy for you that's ready for the challenge, that's ready to take on this team and make his legacy with the Las Vegas Raiders. And ultimately, I hope that does end up going down. Now, I am getting ready to hop on out of here. Appreciate all y'all tuning in. You guys are going to be getting more videos from me. I am back at work tomorrow. I am off on Friday, but that's only because I'm going to be live for both games on Saturday, and then I'll be live for the Patriots and Texans game on Sunday. Don't worry, you guys get videos every day. That's why I want you to hit that subscribe button. But even though I'm off today, and even though I'm here at the house, and I wanted to make y'all a video because I do think the Raiders got fantastic news today with Dante Moore going back to college and all of the rumors that are going around. I love the timing of the Jesse Minter, Ejiro, Evero interviews, the Harbaugh going to the Giants, getting prepared for that domino to fall. And then Robert Saleh, the Brian Flores information that I shared today. If you like these shows, I mean it, man. I'm always going to do my best to keep you guys up to date, inform, and entertain. It's something that I live by. It's something that I strive for. And if you didn't think today's show was very entertaining, well, let me prove to you how much fun we can have on Saturday and Sunday during those playoff games. All right, y'all. Enjoy the rest of your night. Peace out. And I hope that this news made your day a little bit better. And if you're dealing with Verizon SOS bullshit, give me an SOS down below. If you want even more content from me, you can click the subscribe button right here. I will always do my best to have a good time, give you guys Raiders information. I'm a Raider fan, just like all of y'all that just wants to have content out there for the nation. If you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy this video, and you might enjoy that video. Those are the top 2 recommended videos from YouTube.